Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would agree with Graham. I think it's been a very interesting morning so far. As Graham said when we started today, there are a lot of opportunities out there. It's looking for them and it's identifying where they are. And Gary, who's following on from me, will talk about it in terms of Public Contract Scotland, but I'm going to talk not just in terms of Scotland, but in terms of procurement as a whole in the UK, because I don't think Scottish companies should just limit themselves to the Scottish marketplace. It is a very important marketplace, it's a very vibrant marketplace at the moment, but I think the opportunities that present themselves to you go far beyond this country. They go right across the UK and they go into Europe as well. The rules are the same in procurement, whether you're dealing with a Scottish authority, a UK authority, or any European authority in the 27 member states. There's no difference. It is balanced and based on a set of rules. I was quite happy to hear Alistair say this morning that having done some research, they found that 73% of contracts are going to SMEs. It is a very rewarding figure to hear. I remember in England when the Glover Review was first mooted, they suggested that they wanted 40% of all contracts to go to SMEs. And then I asked the question as to how many were already going to them, and they couldn't actually tell me, so they scrapped that number and never told us how much they wanted. And then, having carried out the Glover Review, the latest you'll find on the BIS website is that they want 25% of all contracts to go to SMEs, but they still don't actually know how many contracts SMEs win. So sometimes with numbers I do get a little nervous, but 73% is a good number as far as I'm concerned. It certainly shows that we're going in the right direction in terms of Scotland. And I think Stuart said it well when he said we have got growth going on in Scotland. We are seeing a slight upturn. We're starting to see Scottish businesses growing and going back into the market, and we're seeing it develop. But the other side of that that's very important for you to understand is that the market you're actually targeting has never been hit so heavily in terms of applications. Where a public body 2 or 3 years ago might have got 30, 40 applications at the pre-qualification stage, it's not uncommon now for them to be seeing 80, 100, 150 organisations trying to win contracts. And that means the competition is very heavy out there. It means you have to start thinking towards yourself. And actually it's one of the things that I really want to focus on for this session. We've talked about the Scottish market, we've talked about the growth in the market, and Jerry gave a very eloquent explanation of the fact you have to understand your client as well, and I think that's important. But I think one of the things you have to do in terms of procurement, and it's very, very important, is understand yourself. It's to know where you stand and know what you're able to achieve in terms of procurement and start to focus on it. Because for too long, too many companies have actually chased too many opportunities and they never actually consider what the cost or anything else of that is, and we'll come on to that. A couple of numbers for you. I'm not a great lover of the SME title because it's basically any company up to 250 staff or €50 million turnover, which is one hell of a size of market. Now, interestingly, around about 2004-2005, the European Commission actually introduced micro SMEs because it recognised that it was a very important part of the market. And as you can actually see, in terms of the UK marketplace in 2008, which is the last figures we actually have, over 95% of the businesses in the UK are classed as micro SME, up to 10 employees and up to €2 million turnover. So 73% of the contracts going to SMEs doesn't really tell a tale. It is good, it's far better than the English were suggesting, but I think a better breakdown of that would be valuable as well, to understand where micros and small businesses come into the equation along with the medium-sized businesses, because they have got a vastly important part to play in terms of the market and in terms of how it works. They account for over 9.5 million jobs in the UK, and they account for over 96% of the actual businesses in the UK, small and micro. And I think that's an area that has to be focused on more than the mediums. Medium-sized businesses are starting to be able to grow and develop themselves. They're moving towards being large businesses. And I think you have to understand where you sit in this and start identifying yourself to organisations and make them aware of who you are and what your capabilities are. There are huge advantages to SME organisations, and it's not recognised enough in the market. And I think one of the things that small businesses are really poor at doing is selling themselves and explaining what their advantages are, what they're able to do. how they can do things better. Now, there has been a recognition across Europe in terms of this. The European Commission introduced a statement into the last directive, which had never before been seen, which was that authorities could no longer reject you if your price seemed low until they could actually find out why your price was so low. It used to be standard practice in certain parts of the public sector that if you came in low in terms of price, they would just automatically exclude you, because if they didn't feel you could do it for that cost, that was you removed from the process. Now they have to come back, they have to ask you to justify. Small and micro SMEs have always been able to do things cheaper than the blue chips. It's not a myth, it's actual fact. We've been there as a company ourselves, BIP, we've been in that situation of having to fight and argue with public bodies who've said, oh, you can't do it for that price because the big guys are charging X, and you're saying, well, yeah, actually we can do it, we know how to cost it, we've done a business plan, we understand our costs, and yes, we can do it for that price. So you have to start being able to show that you're capable, what your capabilities are. If you're able to do things differently, you're able to do things either through an innovative route or you're able to do things at a cheaper rate, be willing to stand up there and fight your corner. As Jerry said, it's about talking to them, it's about standing up for yourself. There are lower costs usually in SMEs as well, lower overheads. And that again is something that you've got to bring into the equation. You've got to be able to show how you can make those savings. Because as we know, price, particularly in the current recession, sometimes has a higher weighting than we might want it to have. Oops. You're innovative. People at IBM don't invent things any longer. They buy small businesses who invent things. The SME marketplace is the most innovative there is. Again, you undersell yourself too often though. I've sat on evaluation panels in public sector, I've looked at your submissions, and you don't tell enough of a story, you don't show why you should be getting considered seriously. You need to show that innovation, you need to show that mentality that you have that capability. You need to talk about the quality of service you can deliver, how you work with the client. You need to get that story across to them more, make them aware of the capabilities of your organisation. Again, I think SMEs, and working with one, I can say it, we're more responsive. We're able to do things quicker. We can change things a lot easier and a lot faster. Again, we undersell ourselves too often, and you need to start thinking inwardly, what do we do, what can we do that's maybe different from the rest, and how do we tell that story? You're flexible. Now, Jerry actually touched on it in terms of the contract, the need for change. Change is flexibility. It's about being able to adapt to what the client wants. It's about being able to make that change quickly, smoothly and easily at a low cost and delivering what the client ultimately wants delivered. And again, SMEs a lot of the time are more capable of doing that than a lot of other organisations. It's not to say every big organisation isn't capable of it, I don't mean that. And I'm quite certain there are plenty of small, medium-sized businesses out there who aren't capable either. But on the whole, SMEs do tend to be a lot more receptive and capable of turning things around quickly. And you have to think about your specialisms. What are you doing that the big guys don't? Because what you tend to find with a lot of large companies is they have a defined route to market, they have a defined product, they have a defined service, and that's what they're offering to the public sector. And I'll be honest with you, I deal with public sector people all the time as well. It's one of the things that frustrates the public sector, is sometimes being told by companies, oh, that's what we do and that's what you're getting. The fact that you're able to say, well, hang on, yeah, we can do this for you, we can adapt that, we can change that, we can tweak this, and getting into that area of being able to adapt and deliver something different can be very advantageous to you as well.